in cool water and just blotted them dry, and I've taken them off the stem and stacked them up. Now I'm going to roll them up so they're nice and tight. Now the first way that I'm going to do this is something called CCA, which is a technique where it's called the scissor method. Now this is great. It's a great technique, and I can actually smell the basil coming off the board right now. Now that's wonderful, but sometimes in a restaurant you might have to cut fresh herbs so that they last more than just this moment. All right, you need to do things ahead sometimes. So this technique, I'm not going to use CCA, but I'm actually going to use the tip of the knife and draw it across. So once again, roll it up just like I did before, nice and tight. I'm going to take the first one off, and now using the tip of my knife, cut it super fine as hair. Now the thing I love about this cut is it gets very fluffy on the plate, but I'm using no downward pressure. So I don't crush the leaf at all. All of the essential oils, all the flavors stay in the leaf because I'm not using any downward pressure. Make sure your knife is super sharp though. And just look at the way this fluffs up.
Cut off this flat end, or this rounded edge right here, handle up and back, knife forward and down, and set the potato down on that. I'm going to cut off this rounded edge as well, handle up and back, knife forward and down, rotate it 180 degrees, kind of cut off this rounded edge as well. And what I'm trying to achieve after cutting off these corners, or these ends rather, I want to get some nice square edges all around here. This is the first cut that I made, so I'm going to cut this up, cut this back just a little bit more. So I have some nice points all around. So I've got some nice points right here. Now I'm going to take the potato and I'm going to come in about 1/2 inch, make a 1/2 inch wide cut, handle up and back, knife forward and down. Might even be able to get another one right here too. Handle up and back, knife forward and down. I'm going to take one of these pieces, lay it down on its side, and cut a 1/2 inch wide piece. Very similar, if not identical, to a medium-sized julienne, basically. Now, to make a paysan, I'm really just going to take this julienne, get my thumb at the back of it, fingertips curled underneath. Tip of the blade is in contact with a cutting board. Going to use the back of the blade to make a cut, and basically cut some 1/4 inch thick slices. The way that I was taught to describe this is that a paysan basically looks like a Scrabble tile. Right? So the old word game Scrabble, you wind up cutting some little tile-shaped pieces like that, and that is how you cut a paysan using a potato.
The reason for that is a julienne is long, very thin strips. And in order to get thin strips, you're going to have to begin with thin slices. So we've got that done. Then you take those thin slices, stack a few of them, not too many at a time, stack a few of them, hold them firmly, and then go across and make very thin strips. And there you go. Julienne can be, this is about as thick of a julienne as you would ever cut into a bell pepper. You cannot control how thick the meat is going to be. So you have to sort of make it as thick as you want it. You're going to cut off both ends of the bell pepper, cut through just a little bit like that, and then cut along, so you're cutting out the center. Removing the seeds. Cut a manageable piece, and if it's not as thin as you want it, just take your knife and trim it up a little bit. What you're doing is making the meat as thin as the julienne strips you want. Okay, then from that moment, you go here and once again cut very thin little strips. Once your bell pepper skin is thin, it's easy going from there. And then you have lovely bell pepper.
Now I'm going to turn around the potato, keep it on the flat side to prevent it from rolling around. Next, I'm going to make my second cut. Again, as close to the edge as possible to create a nice flat surface. And then create the third surface. Now 3 sides perfectly flat with the last side kind of bent. I leave that on so I have more room for my fingers to hold the knife without losing too much of the potato. Now the trimmings here I can either use for potato soup or mashed potatoes, etc. Next, depending on the size I want to cut, and I'm going to show you how to cut brunoise. Brunoise is a very small dice, usually 1/8 by 1/8 by 1/8. Of course I can cut larger dice, like 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 an inch, or whatever size you prefer. Keep cutting thin slices, 1/8 of an inch, by positioning your knife on the cutting board, securing it, and cutting straight down. Keep doing that until you have nice, even sheets of potato. Next, and of course you can do that with other vegetables too, such as carrots, turnips, or any firm vegetable. Again, I'm going to cut into strips, 1/8 of an inch wide to make it perfectly square. I keep doing that, and I'm going to use 2 or 3 layers of the potato, as it is large sheets and they're pretty easy to stack. If you're not comfortable with it, just use 1 layer and continue cutting them into 1/8 of an inch wide sticks. Now I have them all cut evenly into 1/8 by 1/8 sticks. I'm going to take a few of these, pile them up, slightly line them up, remove the first cut to get the uneven ones out of the way. Now I have a flat surface here, and I keep cutting that, 1/8 of an inch. Now I have here some potato cubes, perfectly cubed or diced. I'm sure Las Vegas would be proud of me.
So first we're going to cut them into 1/2 inch. So you can have a look. Battenets means nothing but the shape of battens, which are 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch into 2 to 3 inches. Okay, these are usually used as an accompaniment of vegetables. Thicker battenets are usually cut from vegetables which are soft like zucchini and eggplant. But when you cut battenets of carrots and radish, you cut it 1/4 inch size. Now there is another cut, allumette. Allumette is basically 1/6 by 1/6 into 2 to 3 inches. So approximately we are going to cut them into 3 thin slices like this. Again nicely arrange and again cut into 3 pieces. They are also kind of matchsticks, but they are more precise than juliennes. Okay, little bit thicker than juliennes. Juliennes are also referred as matchsticks, but they are much thinner, whereas allumettes is 3 times. Cut the battens into 3 small cuts. That is what you get allumette. Now the next cut, what we are going to learn is dicing. See, dicing can be quite big, medium, and small. The fine cut of dicing is called macedon, but it is one of the smaller cut of dices. So here I've got a medium size of dicing. They all should look like squares, that's when you can call them dice. This is what we mainly use for a lot of Indian curries, especially like kurmas and all that. Whereas Macedon is even smaller cut. This kind of cut you can use in some kind of salads and all that. I'll show you one bigger dice also. Now I've got slightly bigger dices. These are a little bit smaller dices. These are Macedon, which are fine dices. So various sizes of dice.